Tonight, from here in Ottawa and beyond, Canada remembers the sacrifices of those who served.
I'm privileged to be here and with my dad. We both served, and so it goes on.
This generation, we need to push more on talking about the awareness and the meaning of Remembrance Day.
Younger and older, drawn by a rejuvenated national purpose. Plus the buddy system born of shared experience.
You were a jumper and I was a jumper.
Yeah, we were paratroopers. We just trained and then went overseas.
From the fogs of different wars, veterans helping veterans. What the federal budget says about benefits to vets.
Veterans will definitely get less over the long term.
Quebec gets an early snowfall and not everyone was ready.
It was pretty slow till Halloween, then it just got hectic, and now this week it's insane.
No surprise, the kids didn't seem to mind at all.
From CBC News, this is The National in Ottawa with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us here in the nation's capital on what is a day of reflection and remembrance, not only in this city, but right across this country. At the foot of the National War Memorial tonight, individual acts of remembrance continue. People leaving their poppies and their thanks on the tomb of the unknown soldier, small tokens of great reverence. And it's something we've been seeing all day in this year, at this moment, for Canada and the world. This Remembrance Day is seemingly being met with new purpose. So this year marks two important milestones: 80 years since the end of the Second World War and 25 since Canada's unknown soldier came home. Both of them central to the ceremony here in Ottawa. Olivia Stefanovic takes us into that moment.
Despite the cold and the snow, they couldn't miss it. A crowd of nearly 30,000 bundled up to remember.
I'm privileged to be here and with my dad. We both served, and so it goes on. So.
Honoring the sacrifices of all who served and fought for freedom.
Of course, over the years, I've lost a number of my mates, wingers and that, and I remember them.
You know, we're living in dangerous times now, and it's really important that we all pull together as a nation.
Renewed national pride on display during a time of turmoil and threats against Canada's sovereignty.
The sacrifice that they gave for our lives and our freedoms is represented in this flag.
The Canadian military is preparing to rearm with the biggest defense investment in generations.
I think this is important, and I think Canadians do realize the situation that we find ourselves in globally, where it has become more unstable and dangerous over the past few years.
We're in scary times.
Many felt pulled to this national ceremony for the first time.
I honestly think every Canadian should come to Ottawa. It makes you really appreciate that you live in the best country in the world.
80 years after the end of the Second World War, the faces here are changing.
Well, I think I'm the only one in my regiment left alive right now.
The number of Second World War veterans shrinking. Young people gathered say they're determined to keep observing each November 11th.
We need to push more on talking about the awareness and the meaning of Remembrance Day.
It's a way to give thanks to such a beautiful country for giving me such a wonderful opportunity, and many other immigrants across Canada, a wonderful opportunity for everything it's given us.
Keeping up with tradition, thousands of Canadians of all ages continue to place their poppies behind me, 25 years after the remains of an unknown soldier were placed here at the National War Memorial.
And Olivia, 80 years after the end of the Second World War, the national ceremony is certainly seeing some changes.
Yes, it is. Veterans Affairs Canada estimates that there are fewer than 3,700 Second World War veterans still alive. So at this ceremony, we're seeing more veterans from other conflicts, NATO missions, and young people who usually commemorate this day at their school gymnasiums. Well, many of the schools are bringing them here to Ottawa so the next generation doesn't forget what this day is all about.
Absolutely. Olivia Stefanovic at the National War Memorial. The ceremony here was just one of many held across the country today as people gathered to remember the sacrifices of all those who have served. In Toronto, the day began with a sunrise ceremony at Prospect Cemetery.
Today, we remember the thousands of soldiers of diverse backgrounds who fought together, and we honor their legacy with deep gratitude.
In St. John's, weather canceled the Remembrance Day parade, but didn't keep the crowd away from the main ceremony. And in Calgary, a moving sight.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
A Remembrance Day ceremony held among more than 3,700 crosses honoring soldiers from southern Alberta who've died. Later in the hour, the bond between soldiers separated by generations but connected by prior service and new friendship. Now, while Canadians honor the fallen, some veterans are upset tonight over changes to how disability pensions may be calculated. They fear it will mean less money down the road. As David Thurton shows us, this is a question the minister in charge didn't answer clearly.
Across the country, vets are front and center, but on this day of remembrance, some are feeling forgotten.
It's a really nasty little Remembrance Day gift that's been hidden in the budget.
Ottawa is looking to change the formula for how disability pensions are calculated for RCMP, current members of the military, and for vets. Right now, disability pension considers the average of a basket public service salaries and the Consumer Price Index, a measure of the cost of living. Annual top-ups are based on whichever is greater. The new budget proposes to use only the Consumer Price Index.
Definitely get less over the long term. And we're talking about the most vulnerable of the veterans, the ones that are highly dependent upon these benefits for their to recognize their pain and suffering.
CBC News asked the minister multiple times how this change will affect payouts.
So what we're doing is making an adjustment to bring it in line with many other services and benefits.
Will they be getting less money?
We will continue to deliver the services and benefits.
But will they be getting less money?
My understanding is that we are going to be having everything in alignment across government now.
Can you tell us if they'll be getting less money with this adjustment?
So it'll depend on each individual circumstance.
The change, if passed, wouldn't go into effect until January 2027, but the potential impacts go beyond the wallet.
My PTSD is not from fighting for my country, but fighting my country.
At least one advocate says nickel and diming adds to the stress former soldiers face.
The Triple D policy, delay, deny, die, and dead veterans cost no money.
But he says those who served are feeling defeated and losing hope and might not have the energy to fight back. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
There's breaking news tonight about Mark Carney's plan to turbocharge the Canadian economy with what he's described as nation-building projects. So let's go right to Kate McKenna here in Ottawa. Now, Kate, you have, I gather, some new insight into what the Liberals are planning.
Adrian, sources tell CBC News at least 6 new projects are being added to the major projects list on Thursday, adding to the 5 that have already been announced. So far, we know 5 of the new ones. 3 are critical mineral mines, 1 in Quebec, 1 in Ontario, and 1 in New Brunswick. Critical mineral extraction is a priority for this government. In the recent budget, it earmarked $2 billion for the sector over 5 years. The other 2 projects are Indigenous-led. A hydro project in Iqaluit intended to reduce the city's reliance on diesel fuel, and the Silissum liquefied natural gas project in British Columbia. That's close to where the Prime Minister is set to make the announcement on Thursday.
Okay, so Kate, we still clearly don't know the full list, but based on what we do know so far, there's no pipeline there.
No, and if that remains the case, that's likely to lead to criticism, particularly from the Conservatives who have been calling for pipelines to help bolster Canada's economy. They say the better approach would be lifting the regulations that are slowing projects from getting going in the first place. But the government thinks its focus on these projects will spur private investment and get things built faster.
All right, that's Kate McKenna here in Ottawa. G7 foreign ministers are gathering for talks in Ontario's Niagara region.
We look forward to the work ahead, but it's in good company in a collaborative and cooperative.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand welcomed her counterparts, including U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Ahead of the gathering, Anand said Rubio has not mentioned to her Donald Trump's desire to make Canada the 51st state. The group is expected to discuss economic and security challenges. Anand also spoke about her trip to Greenland later this week.
We are expanding Canada's diplomatic footprint in another Arctic region.
Anand will open Canada's new consulate in Greenland's capital, Nuuk. Promised in a foreign policy plan last year, the two countries are trying to strengthen ties following threats from Donald Trump. Well, Quebec was hit with a surprise November snowstorm, and it wreaked havoc right across the province. As Quabina Oduro shows us, hundreds of thousands of people woke up in the dark with power lines down and crews racing to get the lights back on.
Cars towed off slick roads, branches sagging under wet snow, people digging out in front of their homes. Environment Canada says Montreal hasn't experienced a November snowfall like this in more than 20 years.
We were caught off guard by the amount of snow in Montreal.
Across the city, it left a mess in its wake.
We measured 20 centimeters of snow last night until this morning, so that's pretty high.
At its peak Tuesday morning, across the province, almost 380,000 households and businesses were without power. And crews got to work quickly.
So there are still many leaves in the branches and the trees. So that creates a situation where the very heavy snow is actually causing the branches to lean and come in contact with our network and cause these outages.
But those problems were of little concern for the many school kids who got an unexpected bonus of a snow day. Even some adults made the best of it.
I know I was going to get a good workout. So it doesn't bother me. I love it. So it keeps me in shape, gets me through the day.
November is already a busy month for mechanics. In Quebec, it's mandatory that all cars have winter tires by December 1st. The first snowfall always makes people panic. So how many of these do you do a day?
About 80 tires, about 20 sets a day.
And how busy has tire change season been this year?
It was pretty slow till Halloween. Then it just got hectic, and now this week it's insane, you know.
And if someone wanted to get an appointment, how hard is that?
It's going to be till December now. We're in December.
The city of Montreal is prioritizing unclogging storm drains, so when the snow melts, it will flow, not flood. Quabina Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
Hundreds of Quebec doctors are considering leaving the province just weeks after a controversial bill was passed linking their pay to performance. Some doctors say the bill doesn't address the lack of resources within the healthcare system.
Last Friday, we were down to 9 operating rooms closed out of 12 in our 2 main urban hospitals due to lack of nurses. And yet this law too blames the physicians for this.
So Ontario's regulatory body says more than 260 doctors have applied in just over 2 weeks. In the previous 6 months, 20 applied. New Brunswick officials say it has received 80 applications in the last month. Quebec's bill is set to take effect January the 1st. Well, the Ontario government is considering stepping in to stop a collection of high-rises from going up in one Toronto neighborhood, even as it pushes to get more homes built. As Sarah McMillan explains, the concern in this case seems to be all about who is next door.
This is the kind of view Sanofi Pasteur doesn't want people to have. The vaccine manufacturer on the northern edge of Toronto is pushing back on a plan to build residential high-rises next door. It said it's worried about the security risks of so many people looking over the property.
There's ways of doing that elsewhere.
This expert, hired by the developer 10 Block, says spying can be a real concern, but points out there are already plenty of views of the Sanofi grounds.
In this particular case, it's almost immaterial because Sanofi has actually covered their windows as one would expect a company with a high interest in security has done.
10 Block's plan is to tear down this existing shorter building and replace it with 3 new towers up to 39 stories with more than 900 apartments. Sanofi wants that stopped, citing those concerns about security and others like its ability to attract future investments. Now the province is considering stepping in. Ontario's economic development minister is asking the housing minister to issue a zoning order. Those orders override municipal bylaws and are often used to fast-track developments, not prevent them.
It's not really in line with the priority of building homes, but then it also sends a message to anyone looking to build that this could happen to them.
The zoning order being considered in this case would limit building height to 33 meters, or about 10 stories.
It would not be viable at 33 meters. The site needs the density of market housing to help pay for and make the whole project viable together.
The housing minister's office did not respond to our questions. Sanofi declined an interview, but said it appreciates the province's commitment to the life sciences sector. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
At the UN Climate Conference, the absence of the U.S. government has opened a leadership role for China. International climate correspondent Susan Ormiston is covering COP30 in Brazil. Susan, let's start with new pictures of protesters storming the building tonight. What happened?
Yeah, about 7:30 this evening, a large group of protesters were assembled out here in the front of the venue. They were able to push their way inside the COP venue, past the security screening tables and into a foyer area. It's clear that the security staff were struggling to contain the crowd, to push them back and keep them from accessing the rest of the meeting rooms and the pavilions. One report locally said it was a group of Indigenous people and another group politically linked, and one of their demands is a wealth tax to pay for climate action. It was a bit of drama at the end of an unusual day when California's governor, Gavin Newsom, popped up and took a bit of center stage. Gavin Newsom, California governor and chief Trump antagonist, swooped into the COP30 climate talks, slagging the U.S. president for his attack on climate science.
It's an abomination. It's a disgrace. I'm here because I don't want the United States of America to be a footnote at this conference.
Donald Trump isn't here, but his outsized shadow is.
This climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion.
For the first time, there's no USA pavilion, no government delegation, and the White House abandoning these talks leaves a sizable financial hole.
The European Union and Canada are concerned because the U.S. was part of the group of countries that really did provide the climate finance that's necessary.
The U.S. has taken some heat in Belen. Chile's president saying Trump is walking his citizens into the abyss. Climate negotiators and smaller countries are looking to other countries for leadership.
China has stepped into the vacuum already. I think they will also play a very strong role diplomatically.
China is leading by a wide margin on renewable energy growth, last year installing more solar than all the world combined.
As an American, I respect and admire what China is doing at scale as it relates to supply chains and manufacturing. And the United States of America better wake up to that.
The leader of the world's fourth largest economy, and with an eye on the next Democratic nomination, Governor Newsom is pushing the power of states and cities to work around national government's climate blocks.
US mayors, whether that's projects on building resilience, on improving transport or cutting emissions, they're trying to be very practical.
As Newsom arrived in Belen, U.S. news reports said the Department of Interior will announce it's allowing drilling off California's coast for the first time in 40 years.
It's dead on arrival. Dead on arrival.
Adrian, the venue is secure now, but there's federal police at the entrance and there's a line of fencing all around this area which had been open.
All right, thank you, Susan. That's Susan Ormiston reporting in Brazil tonight. Pakistan's defense minister says the country is in a state of war after a suicide attack outside a courthouse in the capital. Video of the moments afterwards captured a very chaotic scene. 12 people were killed, 27 others were injured Members of Pakistan's government claimed it was carried out by militants based in Afghanistan and backed by India, an allegation India denies. And you're looking at pieces of a Turkish military cargo plane. Turkey's defense ministry says the C-130 crashed with 20 people on board. There's no confirmation on the number of casualties or the cause. The plane, like the one seen here, took off from Azerbaijan and crashed over the border in Georgia. Well, a WestJet customer says her family's tickets were canceled because of the weight of her wheelchair.
Well, they just did it like a couple months ago, so why is it too heavy now?
Her family's story and the airline's response. Two approaches to health care, two vastly different outcomes.
We have, in a way, a natural experiment taking place.
How outsourcing surgeries can affect patients. And a mountainside bridge in China collapses just months after opening. We're back in 2. Look at that, a massive mountainside bridge connecting China's Sichuan province with Tibet has collapsed. Officials say it was closed at the time after cracks developed on nearby roads. That was followed by landslides. The bridge spanned more than 750 meters. It was only open to the public in recent months. No injuries have been reported. A Saskatchewan family is speaking out after WestJet canceled their tickets, claiming their 14-year-old daughter's wheelchair was too heavy. Helena Mahalik shows us their call tonight for better accessibility.
8th grader Georgia Nataraj says she's looking forward to a family trip to Mexico during February break.
I was getting really excited about it.
At just 18 months old, Georgia was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy. A 200-kilogram wheelchair helps to ease tension in her muscles and spine. And her family says they've flown with WestJet out of Saskatoon for years with her chair. But now the airline has canceled their tickets, claiming the chair exceeds its weight limit.
I was kind of a little bit sad that we weren't gonna go if we couldn't find a different way to get there.
WestJet told Georgia's father that handling a wheelchair of that weight is unsafe for its staff and it could damage the chair. And in a statement to CBC News, the airline says WestJet updated its wheelchair size and weight limits in its accessibility progress report of June 2024. But the family says they are confused about the timing of those rule changes.
As recently as 8 months ago, we were flying on WestJet out of Saskatoon with Georgia's chair. And so to hear that they're now refusing to take her chair on was disheartening, yeah.
Well, they just did it a couple months ago, so why is it too heavy now?
The family is still planning on that vacation, making an 8-hour drive to Calgary to catch a bigger WestJet plane that can accommodate Georgia's chair. But they're hopeful this incident opens a wider conversation about accessibility on airlines. They're calling on Transport Canada to look into this issue further, so people outside big cities can travel on WestJet planes with heavier wheelchairs. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Young veterans are taking it upon themselves to care for those who served Canada before them.
I don't know what I'd do without Ken.
The bond bringing generations together. And could the era of unknown soldiers soon be over?
What it signals is the end of this kind of practice.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. We're here in Ottawa, where many are still honoring the fallen tonight, paying their respects at the tomb of the unknown soldier. In their own way, kneeling or laying poppies. To date, nearly 30,000 people gathered in the capital for the national ceremony. New research suggests privatizing surgeries can lead to some longer wait times. It compared data from England and Scotland, two countries moving in opposite directions in the public-private debate. Christine Birak has the findings and the potential takeaways for Canada.
We need to look straight at the lights for me if we can.
Two new academic reports are out, comparing Scotland's
You will see your consultant at every visit.
and England's approaches to reducing wait times for surgeries.
We have, in a way, a natural experiment taking place, with England deciding to pursue privatisation of services and Scotland deciding not to do that.
England began outsourcing hip, knee, and cataract surgeries to private for-profit clinics in the 1980s, while Scotland expanded surgeries in the public system by acquiring a private hospital. Now, 22 years of data suggest 60% of taxpayer-funded cataract surgeries in England are done in for-profit clinics. In Scotland, it's just 2%. Both countries doubled the number of surgeries, and wait times are shorter in Scotland than in England. But the shift negatively affected English hospitals.
What we found was that far from helping the public sector froze as money flowed out of the system into the private hospitals.
The report suggests the private route overall led to longer wait times for all patients, lowered the capacity of hospitals to do certain surgeries, and increased inequality in accessing care.
I guess the question is, can we extrapolate those findings to Canadians?
Surgeons who welcome for-profit clinics say systems need to strike a balance.
I think it's something to keep in mind as we open these centers, that we don't deplete the existing human resources from hospitals where there's good work being done.
Others argue the evidence is clear.
Scotland, in contrast, actually improved wait times across the entire population. So that's a really important lesson for us.
All doctors say quicker access to surgeries is a must. But as provinces spend more taxpayer dollars in for-profit clinics, Scotland and England's experience may offer a glimpse of what's ahead. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, let's break down the news shaping our world. Canada pauses to remember those who fought and died.
The unknown soldier himself is that touch point.
Symbolic of duty and sacrifice, but in future wars, will there be unknown soldiers?
This is my duty in life.
Veterans extending a hand of friendship to those who fought before them.
Nice to have a good friend with you, that's for sure.
A remarkable connection between soldiers, bridging the generations. For some vets, there are experiences and stories they can only really share with someone who's been there too. This spring, I encountered two remarkable friendships, bonds formed between soldiers who fought on battlefields decades and worlds apart. In the event, you saw Canadian Second World War vets being celebrated as liberators in the Netherlands. You surely noticed a few things. The reverence for these men, yes.
Thank you very much.
The crowds, absolutely. But did you notice those alongside the old soldiers? Paul Clark with 99-year-old Ernie Wiles. Kent Griffiths, always next to George Morash, who's 102. The younger men vets themselves on another mission now. Battle buddies.
It's a part of my routine, and I just love to see him, and he loves to see me, and we go out and do things together.
So you're kind of his person now?
Yes, I'm his person, and he's my person.
Kent and George are both Calgary Highlanders, one who saw action and horrific losses in Normandy and the Netherlands, one who served in Afghanistan. While working for the Legion, Kent first met George and his wife Fern 5 years ago. And then, when Fern died, Kent realized something about George.
There was a big void. He doesn't have any children. He doesn't have any living brothers or sisters. So I thought I would help fill that void and go over and visit him.
What can I say? I love Kent.
Yeah. Do you find, Kent, soldier to soldier, that there are things you can talk to George about that maybe you don't talk to others about?
Absolutely. I'm his confidant. He's my confidant. We've gone through similar things. I certainly wasn't in a war like George and didn't have to watch my buddies die in front of me. So he's a tough man, but the memories, they come back. And Every now and then, we'll have a little cry together, and that's not a bad thing at all.
George, does it help having Kent here to be able to talk soldier to soldier?
Yes. I don't know what I'd do without Kent.
This is not an official program. There's no national caregiver strategy in Canada to pair younger and older vets, but it's a thought. And in the U.S., in Virginia in particular, it's a practice.
It's not all sunshines and rainbows. We're doing the hard work. Like, we're the boots on the ground.
Shauna McLean lost her dad to the ravages of the Vietnam-era chemical Agent Orange. Bothered by how aging vets struggle, she became the chief operating officer of Heroes Bridge, in part pairing up younger and older vets.
We always say the veteran picks their battle buddy, because we can have a social and a veteran can sit with 4 different volunteers. He's going to click with probably one of them.
There are phone lines for lonely vets to connect with other service members, meal deliveries, home repairs, soldiers helping soldiers.
Especially our Vietnam veterans, they're a little untrusting at first that someone's going to help them and for nothing, or they say the whole, somebody else needs this more than I do. There has to be somebody who needs this help more than I do. And we're like, no, that's not what we're here specifically for you guys.
Does it work? Shauna says there's every indication the companionship and caring make the men feel stronger, healthier, and that's a victory.
This one here is a fire department.
Even here, where these connections all happen organically without funding or structure, the results are real.
You look a little younger there, Ernie.
Oh, well, I was getting younger all the time.
You were a jumper, and I was a jumper.
Yeah, we were paratroopers. We just trained and then went overseas and did our work over there.
Ernie Wiles was one of a few elite Canadians in 1944 to join Operation Market Garden, dropping into the Dutch city of Arnhem, pushing through German lines.
Yeah, we were the first troops in there. That's why, they think so much of us. It's really amazing. It's amazing.
It was brutal and not the end of it. He went on to fight in Belgium too, and to live a whole big, adventurous life. At 99, he still lives alone in the Kawarthas in Ontario.
Another British paratrooper here.
Yeah.
And he's got the maroon-colored tie on.
And he met Paul when the younger vets spotted Ernie in the maroon beret of parachutists. They started talking and just kept at it. And when the realization hit that Ernie needed a caregiver to accompany him for this year's trip to the Netherlands for the 80th anniversary of liberation, it was just a natural choice that Paul join him.
He looked after me pretty good, kept me out of trouble. I was always roaming around somewhere, with a walker.
And he was like that, too. If I turned my back for a second, he was gone. I was just very, very happy just to see him mingling with the people and how they appreciated him so much. He deserves it.
Nice to have a good friend with you, that's for sure.
The trip, a memory now, the relationship still ongoing. As much as he can, Paul checks in on Ernie. Not an obligation, an honor.
It's not too cold, is it?
Yeah.
A friendship, and in an ideal world, a trend.
And we got to go in the parade. The people would reach out and they would want to touch your hand. That was a great event.
To chat with Kent Griffiths now is to get the feeling he'd love that too.
This is a calling. This is my duty in life right now, is to be his friend and to make sure that he's feeling valued as a veteran, because he's a hero. He's one of those people who fought for all of the things that I enjoy right now.
And look at that big smile here. Someone was either telling you a joke or you were really happy to be there.
Remembrance is an act. It demands that we do something. So does love. And this is both. And leading up to Remembrance Day, George and Kent spent really the last 2 weeks in schools telling the stories George kept to himself for decades after the war. He's held a lot in for a long time, and so now he says he will just keep sharing for as long as he can, and part of that commitment is talking with kids. Coming up, is science challenging the sacred symbolism of the unknown soldier?
Seems to me quite doubtful that we'll have any unknowns in future wars.
The complex dynamic between a symbolic grave and modern science. Next. Canada's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a powerful monument to the ultimate sacrifice.
I would be opposed to anybody trying to find out who the unknown soldier is.
But with modern tools, there are questions about the whole concept of unknown soldiers in future wars. Murray Brewster breaks down the tomb's history, its symbolism, and how technology presents a challenge to maintain its sanctity.
Canada's silent, fallen soldier, a casualty of the Great War whose identity remains a deliberate mystery. A soldier who lays at the foot of the National War Memorial under the timeless gaze of his comrades. A soldier whose duty to the country never ends.
The unknown soldier himself is that touch point for every, because it could have been any of us.
The great wars of the last century, slaughter on an unimaginable scale, tens of thousands of Canadians with no known grave. As countries once again ponder the unthinkable, we're forced to ask ourselves, with today's DNA technology, if there is a future war, will there ever be an unknown soldier?
I think that the existing tombs of unknown soldiers in various nations will remain, and I think they will continue to have powerful symbolic value. But it seems to me quite doubtful that we'll have any unknowns in future wars.
Every Remembrance Day, Canadians rebury the tomb under the gentle weight of poppies. Yet very few today have a personal connection to the kind of sorrow that gave rise to these monuments. Does the concept of an unknown soldier still have meaning to an on-demand, just-in-time generation? Or will it simply become a relic of a bygone era? One of the last tombs to be established was in Newfoundland in 2024. An unidentified soldier brought home after more than a century of resting in French soil, a representative of more than 800 Newfoundlanders who fought and died in the First World War. Canada as a nation was also a relative latecomer in creating its own national tomb. These touchstones were mostly a phenomenon of the 1920s. That's when the UK established one of the first, the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior. A time when the memories, the loss, and the wounds of the Great War were still raw. The United States was not far behind, creating a tomb where today unknown soldiers of several wars are interred. It wasn't until May 2000 when Canada embraced the legacy and laid to rest its unknown soldier at the foot of the National War Memorial with great ceremony.
The unknown soldier was exhumed from Cabaret Rouge near Vimy Ridge, and he was brought back to Ottawa. They went out of their way to make sure that it was a relatively randomized selection of individuals who would be the final candidates before actively deciding who would be the one to be exhumed and returned home. And the reason for that is they truly wanted to ensure that he was going to be an unknown soldier in perpetuity.
And there was good reason for that. A few years before, technology started to strip away the anonymity of the unknown war dead. In the late 1990s, DNA revealed the identity of the Vietnam-era soldier in the United States, forcing a painful decision.
It would have been incomprehensible to the people who really launched that project after World War I. And so, you know, this was a case in which remains were identified. Remains were actually removed from the tomb, which again would have been a shock, I think, to earlier generations of American veterans, and then actually identified. And what it signals is the end this kind of practice.
Should we know who lies beneath these stones? In the case of Canada's unknown soldier, we choose not to know as a matter of reverence and regulation. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission only gives up its war dead in unknown graves as long as the country accepting them swears no effort will be made at identification.
Each of these stones represents a person, and from the headstones you can actually tell their entire story. And I think that speaks volumes to remembering who they are.
Over 29,000 Canadians remain unaccounted for in the wars of the previous century, and it is the act of reclaiming a lost life, a missing identity, that is at the heart of DND's Casualty Identification Team, which is part CSI, part historical detective.
The program exists so that whenever there's newly discovered human remains, typically they're discovered because of construction or farming activity, we then sort of start an investigation to see if we can identify that individual so that he can be buried with his name, by his unit, and in the presence of family.
DNA plays a role in 99% of Dr. Sarah Lockyer's investigations. She understands and respects what the unknown soldier stands for. But in essence, it is her mission to make sure no one remains unknown. And that's where science collides with sacred symbolism.
It is the complete opposite of what my job is. It is the complete opposite of one of the major points of forensic anthropology, of being able to identify unknown individuals and return their names and their faces to them. It goes completely against that, yes. And admittedly, I still struggle with having had to do the exact opposites of what my field sort of requires and what my job typically requires.
The Afghan war and peacekeeping missions were different for Canadians. Casualties came home to their families, unlike the world wars, which leads to the question, would Canadians accept a modern unknown soldier? Would loved ones today accept not knowing?
I would be opposed to anybody trying to find out who the unknown soldier is, that's buried at our National War Memorial, because it's such a powerful symbol. But on the other hand, I'm a dad, and if it was my child, I would want to know.
While DNA can put a name to the fallen, it can't measure our loss as a nation or the extent of a family's personal grief. It is often said, no one is ever truly dead as long as you remember them and speak their name. It's more complicated, but nonetheless true for the unknown soldier.
The crowd that lined up to place a poppy on the tomb this year was really thick. People were waiting, in some cases, up to 10 minutes to get to the front of the queue.
Murray, it's pretty clear that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the War Memorial, have very deep meaning for Canadians, but to look at that place is to also realize it holds a pretty painful legacy.
Yes, it does. That's because in 2014, one of their own died while on sentry duty at the tomb. Corporal Nathan Cirillo, a reservist with the Argyll Sutherland Highlanders of Canada, was brutally gunned down by an Islamic State terrorist supporter. Cirillo was only 24 years old. He was a young father. He was part of the National Sentry Program, which draws on members of the Armed Forces, Navy, Air Force, Army, and Ranger. And they guard the tomb between April 2nd and November 10th each year. And it's considered a great honor within the military to perform this duty.
Indeed. Murray Brewster, thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up, marking the 110th anniversary of John McCrae's In Flanders Fields.
We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow.
Students from Brampton, Ontario recite the famous words in our moment. It's now been more than 110 years since Canadian John McCrae wrote In Flanders Fields, and to this day, it continues to be taught in schools across the country. Tonight, we'll leave you with students from grade 4 to 7 at Mount Royal School in Brampton, Ontario, reciting McCrae's famous words. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row. That marks a place, and in the sky,
the larks still bravely singing fly.
Scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow.
Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw.
The torch be yours to hold it high.
If ye break faith with us who die.
We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.